Okay, it is 10 o'clock. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and to everybody who's joined a bit early. My name's Christina Ung. I'm on the marketing team here, and I help facilitate these sessions. And today we have Jose Paredes-Clara joining us. He is going to be speaking about spawning and approving change orders from change requests in Fusion Manage. Thanks for joining us, Jose, and hosting today's session, and thanks to all of our attendees.
Yeah.
On the next slide here, I wanted to highlight we've made a few changes to how we are announcing our upcoming KVA sessions. Instead of a weekly newsletter, you will now receive a monthly newsletter. We sent this on Tuesday, I believe, so you should have received the email on the left. It has a link to all of the sessions for the month, as well as all of the previous recordings from the last month. In here, you can find links to learn more about all the sessions, but also to watch all of the replays. The replays will still be up 24 hours after this. So if you want to share this session with anyone, it will be up on our website in about 24 hours. You will still receive the email from Zoom every week, 1 hour before the session. That's the email on the right here. If you have any thoughts about this or very strong feelings, there will be a survey at the end of the session today. You can fill that out, or you can send me an email at marketing@ketiv.com. Let us know if this impacts your workflow. And finally, on the next slide, I wanted to highlight the KETIV Learning Program. This is a subscription-based learning platform. It comes with both live and on-demand training for products in the Autodesk Product Design and Manufacturing collection. This comes with your own KETIV advisor, personalized learning plans, and unique workshops each quarter. So you can learn more about the program and see all of the benefits and if it would be a good fit for your manufacturing company by scanning the QR code on the left, or I'll drop a link in the chat right now as well if you'd like to check it out. So once again, if you have any questions, concerns, or feedback, please fill out that survey at the end of today's session. We're so glad you're here, and I'll let Jose take it away. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah. So today we're going to be working in Fusion Manage. Kind of to follow up on the session that we did with Phil not too long ago, kind of introducing and giving people exposure to that Autodesk tool. So on the agenda today, we're going to go ahead and take a look at permissions inside of Fusion. So editing fields, certain sections that you can see within these workspaces, within change requests, within change orders, how you set approvals and how those work within the environment. One of the very good things about Fusion Manage is the flexibility that it has, right? So it can really fit your workflow when it comes to approvals, when it comes to the stages that it goes through in those workspaces. We're going to touch a bit on action scripts. So, what happens on an approval? What happens when it transitions from one state to another? What can you do? What does it do? Things like that. And then requirements check. Like we're talking again, making sure that it fits your workflow, that it fits your environment, your company's process. Well, those processes themselves require certain things to be true when going through these processes, right? So just quick introduction. I forgot to put a picture, but it's me on camera here. My name is Jose Paredes-Clara. I'm a data management application engineer here at KETIV. I've been with KETIV for about 8 years. I took about 1.5 years there to work with one of our customers before coming back. So cumulatively, I've been with KETIV for about 8 years. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and then moved out here, followed a girl who is now my wife. So I've been out here for about almost, I would say 9 years. So I was, or 9 or 10 years. It's been a wild ride here in California. But if you've seen me before, if you've been on my KVAs before, I don't usually like to talk to a PowerPoint, and I typically just jump straight into a demo and kind of walk through it. I like to teach or go through things by doing as opposed to by showing. So we're gonna look again in Fusion Manage. For those of you that have access to it, you may have a test environment, you may not. Typically, you can make some of these changes, play around with these workspaces inside of your sandbox, I would say. If you're not using these environments in your production box, you can kind of set those up as well, and kind of start going through the motions. But today we're going to look at change requests and change orders. The reason I picked these two workspaces to start off with is because they kind of lead into each other, right? Specifically in Fusion Manage as well, we'll see that, our change requests and change orders workspaces are under the same subset, right? So they're under change management. So if we go in here, there's of course some other workspaces that we can work in: problem reports, deviation, and waiver requests. But the two main ones we're going to focus on today are change requests and change orders. So within each workspace, of course, we have a list of records that we've created inside of each one, and that's where we're going to, kind of go ahead and start here, is just taking a look at the different sections. And this is, again, the very beginning of customizing it to fit your environment, right? All these sections are customizable within Fusion Manage. You can create the different sections. You'll see here that this change request is broken up into 7 different sections, and they all show different information. Some of them being, administrative side of information, related change orders, because all these workspaces can be linked throughout the environment. You can also add sections where, there's links from and to the different records that they're related to, such as kappas, the PR environment within change requests. But you also have, like you can see here, approvers. So, all this information that's available, you have control over it. And what I mean by that is right now it's showing as 1 of 7 sections in this workspace. You can hide certain sections from certain people. Again, this is a very one of the strong points of Fusion Manage is, as you're moving through, you have different people from different teams accessing this information. Some of it could be sensitive, some of it could be, users that are outside of your company, and there's information that you don't want to be readily available to them yet, maybe at this stage. You can hide these sections. We can go ahead and control these sections. One of the ways that we can do this is, and again, this is, we're going to jump in here on the administrator side here. But if we look at a workspace manager on the admin side, we can go to our change request environment, take a look at our item details tab, which is where we're looking at all this information. And you'll see here, this is where we approve our setup and kind of configure our permissions. So that's one of the things we're going to look at is or that you can do within Fusion 360 Fusion Manage, is configure who can see it. So specifically for each section, you can take a look at this and you can show or hide advanced permissions here. And this is where, the fun begins. For a lot of this, for configuration, I would say create an outline first to make sure that you have a template to work with. Not only with Fusion Manage, but with other data management tools such as Vault. That's what we like to do right off the bat. It's make sure that we have a roadmap that we're working on. So like, as you're set, not only knowing which sections you're going to set up, but also knowing which people are going to be allowed to see these sections. So again, you can pick and choose. By default, it's available to all your groups. But if you wanted to pick and choose which groups within your environment can edit, which can only view, you can go ahead and pick and choose, who can see these specific sessions. You'll see here at the very top, we have section name, and that corresponds to this team section here, right? So team, we can pick and choose who can see it. And again, customize it to fit your needs and the information that you're setting. Now, this is, we're talking about the sections here, but you can also change the permissions for the actual information that you're filling out. If I go back into change requests here, and I go ahead and create a new change request, right off the bat, you'll see there's a lot of empty areas that we can fill in information such as title, but we also have number here that's not editable. So depending again on how you want to handle this information, you could make that field editable by the user, such as this title, where I can type in what I need. So KVA demo 2, I believe is what we're going to go with today. But number in my case is auto-generated. So this is kind of like our first look into action scripts. So action scripts are what run when as the name implies, a certain action is performed within the environment. In this case, there's when you're creating a new record, we can say, hey, every time a new record is created, run this specific action script. If we take a look at what that looks like here, under system configuration, we can go to scripting. This is the full library of all the scripts that are available within your environment. A lot of these come out of the box with Fusion Manage, and a lot of them are customized as well, again, to fit the needs that you need. So in order to make sure that we can differentiate between them, we recommend using various naming conventions. So you'll see here, we have approval board on create, approval board on edit. That's because when we're setting up our workspaces, we can tell them to run specific scripts when a new record is created, or run specific scripts whenever a record is edited. And then right below it, you'll see workflow actions. These are all different points throughout the workspace that would require different actions, right? If you're creating a new record the first time, then nothing's really happening with the, I would say, the approvals right off the bat. It's in a certain state. It's going to be in a create state right away. We don't need to, modify any specific people at that point, just for lack of a better word. But as people approve, as people go through this process, and new approvers need to be added, new people need to be pinged to let them know that they have responsibilities within the change request, within the change order. That's when we want to kind of send out emails or move certain people into certain responsibilities. So, it's a kind of a good habit to keep these scripts separated. But if we take a look at this on create script here, for this specific action script, we are running from a library. So within the scripting environment in Fusion Manage, you have different kinds of scripts. We've been talking about action scripts just because those are the ones that we're kind of concerned with right now. We have condition scripts, which basically when a record is loaded, it checks certain criteria within that record. Are all the approvers completed? Is there only one approver? Based on those criteria, then certain actions become available. And those condition scripts are what are used to determine what the criteria is. Validation scripts, on the other hand, is another thing that is used inside of not only change requests, change orders, but also project release, right? Validation scripts are usually used to make sure that the tasks that were assigned for this record have been completed typically. So, if you're releasing a new product, new project, and there's certain tasks such as drawings, such as supporting documentation that needs to be created and accounted for, you want to make sure that that task is completed before it moves forward to the next stage. Validation scripts, what they do is they search through the tasks that are usually associated and make sure that they're completed before moving forward. In any case that they're not completed, what it does is it throws up a red banner, basically letting you know, hey, this task hasn't been completed. And typically it lists out, if it's just one task, then it'll tell you, but if it's not, it'll list out the list of tasks that you still have actions to perform on. We talked about action scripts and when they apply. Whenever something is performed on a record, it goes through and performs certain actions. And then the last one that we have is library scripts. And this is just a collection of basically a collection of processes that can be done or called on from different actions or different scripts, sorry. So when we saw this approval board on create and we went in there, it's all it said was like, hey, we're referencing this library, go look at this specific command in that library script and run it. We're not going to get too much more into the weeds there, but the reason that we originally went there was because this field and the permissions on this field are set to not be editable when we create an item. Because when we hit save for the first time, what it does is it reaches out and it creates a number based on certain criteria. So that criteria could be, the type of ECR that it is, change request that it is. It could be based on the priority. That's another one of the benefits is you can create your numbering schemes based off of information that is being gathered within your record. To help with that, again, we talked about it a little bit, but title here is not only editable by the user when it's being created, but we have this little red asterisk. And what that does is it lets us know that this field is required. So like, let's say title here is required, team is required. And those two things are required when creating a new change request, because the scripts that are running once we save it require that information. Think of it this way: if your numbering scheme use that title field or use priority, and it went to create the number based off of that information, but it was empty, then you'd start running into errors. It can't be left blank. It can't find a value that it can use. So we want to make sure that we set those permissions. And very similarly to how we did that for the sections, where you hit the pencil and you give it certain criteria, you would do the same thing for the attribute that we're looking at. So in this case, title, if we take a look at this, one of the permissions that you can set is whether or not it's editable, but at the very bottom for this specific field, it is required. So these settings directly correlate to how they show up and present themselves to the user. Now, we talked about, we went a little bit into action scripts. We went a little bit into, I would say, validation scripts here. But let's see an action script in action here. One of the first things we can do here is select the type of team that we want to go through or that we want to use for this change request. You'll see here that whenever I hit this drop-down menu, it only gives me a couple options. And both of these options here are change request teams that I have set up within the Vault environment. It's grabbing these teams from what's known as the approval list workspace. It's a reference workspace that has a list of all the teams that are available in my Fusion Manage workspace. So if I come in here, actually, let me go in here and take you this way. If we go to workspaces and then reference, there's an approval list workspace that we can go into. If I click on this, it'll take me and show me again all the teams that I have set up within my environment. Now, even though this drop-down list is looking directly at my approval list workspace, it's only showing me the change request ones. And that's because A, we're in the change request environment, but B, we told it to do that. If we go back again into our workspace and take a look at this team attribute, we're telling it to grab from this approval board workspace. And this pick list here is set up to specifically only look for certain values. So it's looking for change request values. So again, even though we have all of this set up as a whole, we have all these teams kind of working together, well, you can still pick and choose what's showing up, right? You can still pick and choose, make sure that this tool is as easily adaptable or adoptable as possible, and making sure that it's showing all the right tools. So the main difference here again is we can set up a CCB, which is just going to be more thorough. It's going to have more approvers. It's in this case, in our case, it's going to have a stage 1 and a stage 2 approver. And then we have a fast track, which, you know, let's say it's a quick change or it's something that doesn't really require outside approval from different teams. You can pick and choose what workflow this change request is going to go through. And then again, coming in here, if we take a look at our fast track, I believe it might be empty in my case. Yeah. But if we look at our CCB track, we'll see that it has my name in here. So it has me as stage 1 approver and stage 2 approver, kind of making it easier to go through these demos as opposed to having to bring someone in and approve it. But what's nice about you know, adding and removing these teams is, and controlling the permissions, is only administrators will have access to this approval list, right? So not everyone can make the edits. Not everybody can even see this workspace of approval list. If we don't want that, we can make it so that it's available only to the necessary people. So we're going to come in here. We're going to say, we're going to do a CCB, which is going to have stage 1 and stage 2 approvers. You'll see here that these fields right here are empty and non-editable for now. Yes, we can add additional approvers if we needed to. Let's say we, in special scenarios, you know, our CCB usually is pretty good on approvals, but something is out of the ordinary, something is very, very delicate, and it requires additional scrutiny, additional approvers. We can add those additional approvers right off the bat, or add them right after we initially save it down the line. But we'll see here that there is no other required field. The last one that we're going to select before we save the change request here is this bottom one here, which is whether or not we want to generate a CO, which is a change order, on approval. And this is kind of touching on that, you know, the whole title of the KVA today is all of these workspaces are linked together and can be linked through scripting, through the process, and through these transitions on approval, right? We can go ahead and do this. So what we're going to say is, hey, we're going to go ahead and generate that change order on approval. We want to, if this goes through, if this is you know, approved in change request space, then we want to go ahead and just move right into the next step of the process. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and save, and you'll see here it kind of there was a quick progress bar up here, and that basically it's going through certain processes. You'll see here again that number field that was not editable previously now has a value in it. That's because, again, it went through that action script, it ran through that library script, and it generated a number based off of certain criteria. In this case, just it used CR for change requests, and then it bumped the number based on the number of change requests that had been created previously. Again, this can be configured to use different fields to grab certain values. All of these attributes are pretty much available to grab. But not only did it use the action script to generate the number, it also used that action script to set the approvers. What it did is it grabbed the values that it had inside of the change request team and applied them to the fields down here. So it applied it to the predefined approvers. So that's what it grabbed from the team. And then because nobody has approved it yet, I'm still under remaining approvers here. Now, that was, again, one way to trigger an action script. saving the file, or sorry, saving the record. Another way is to edit the record and save it again. If I do that, what it does is it runs another action script. In this case, we saw previously we had an on edit action script that we can run. We can set up all of those to kind of run through whenever we perform certain actions. Now, how do we tell it trigger this on edit, trigger this on save, trigger this on creation? Well, there's two places we can set these permissions. One is under behaviors. So if we click on this for the change request environment, here we have certain two fields that can be filled out by default, right? So we can set a script to run when an item is created. So you'll see here, we were actually using CR on create for this workspace. And then we have a script that we can run when details are modified. So whenever we edit a record, and that one we have approval board on edit. So these two that's how we would set those scripts to run, those action scripts to run. And then additionally, if there are any scripts that you might want to run on demand, not all the time, not every time, but only certain scenarios, you can go ahead and pick certain ones that will become available to run in the workspace. So that's one area we can go ahead and set action scripts to run. The other area is in our workflow. So if we take a look at the workflow that we have set up for change requests, you'll see here that our change request is pretty basic. It's pretty standard, right? That may not be the case in your environment. That may not be the case for all of our customers. But again, the nice thing about Fusion Manage is it's very, very customizable. If there are, in our case, we have 2 stages where it requires approvals. If you have 3, if you have 1 all the time, 4, whatever be the case, we can set up a workflow to kind of progress through that process, make sure that all the right people, all the right teams are included and incorporated. And this is actually where we can set our second area to run action scripts. For every single one of these transitions, we can set certain action scripts to run. So if I double click on this submit transition, you'll see 3 places to set scripts. One is a precondition script, and this is what I was mentioning earlier. It double checks to see, hey, how many approvers are left. If there's only 1, then we can go ahead and make it the final approval. You'll see here that this is important for engineering evaluation, which is stage 1, right? So let's say you have 4 approvers. Well, the first 3 people that have to approve or approve first will get access to this approve arrow. So they'll hit approve and boom, it stays exactly the same all the way up until the 4th approver, which is the last one, right? Fusion Manage checks and it says, okay, there is 1 approver left. Because it's the final approval, they'll be the ones not only to approve it, but to send it to the next stage. So that's what our condition scripts do. And again, depending on the criteria that you want to set, if it's not only checking to see how many approvers it is, if there's certain criteria that you want to set within the record, you can go ahead and script that in to make sure that it's also checking those out. The other area we can take a look at is validation. So that is if we were talking about projects and certain products being released, if there's certain tasks associated to a record, you can go ahead and run a validation script and make sure that those tasks are completed before pushing forward. Precondition script checks to see if a certain transition is even allowed right off the bat. Validation script runs after the transition gets triggered, and it makes sure that the transition can complete before moving to the next stage. If either one of those fails, it pretty much it stays. Your record stays in the stage that it originally started out. If your transition or the action that you performed meets the precondition script, meets the validation script, and it's all good. It goes through the checks, everything's completed, all your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, then it moves forward and it does an action script. So again, that action script can do many things in our change request environment. It does two things as we move through the transition. One thing you'll see here is when we approve, it'll remove my name from remaining approvers and push it into approved by. And then again, depending on the transition that we're on, after stage 2, not only will it move my name to the approved by environment, but it will generate the change order. And again, it'll go through that process by checking, hey, is this checkbox enabled? If it's a yes, then it'll go ahead and generate the change order. If it's not enabled, then it won't try, right? We can set those because we're working with JavaScript there. We can set this criteria. We can say if certain things happen, then do this. Otherwise, do this other thing. We can go ahead and kind of customize our script to move along those processes. So let's go ahead and kind of push through here. If there's any questions as we're going, if you guys have any questions on where we can go to set some of these things up or how they work, we can go ahead and jump on it. If it's something that we're going to address a little bit later, I'll go ahead and just let you know as we go. But our change request is in create. We just saved it for the first time. It puts it in create to make sure that you are giving all the information that is required, right? So as much information as you want, you can go ahead and put it in create. Once all the information is available for evaluation, right? You can go ahead and submit it into the next stage. So this is stage 1, engineering evaluation. You'll see that it goes through the processes. It runs through certain scripts to make sure that everything is valid. If we go back at our details, this is another thing that we can change, right? As we're looking at stage 1 and stage 2, if we want to be more precise or we wanted to match our workflow a little bit better, this is another thing that we can edit within our item details tab. If we come in here, you'll see here that we can change this from stage 1 to stage 2. These headers for this grid here or this matrix here don't really impact our workflow. And what I mean by that is, these scripts are referencing certain attributes. So when it goes through the script and it says, hey, grab everyone that is a predefined approver and put it under the remaining approvers, it's looking for the specific name of the attribute. If we take a look at the attribute, you'll see that it uses field ID. The reason it does this is because field IDs are unique. So you can't really run into an issue where, I meant stage 1 approvers, but I said stage 3 approvers. They're different. You can't really confuse them and they can't grab the wrong value. So the reason I bring that up is when you're working on your scripting, when you're working on the action scripts, the condition scripts, you want to make sure that when you're referencing these attributes, you're referencing the right ones. If you ever do replace these attributes or change what the attributes are called, you want to make sure that you're updating it inside of your script as well. Unlike these row headers and these column headers, these are just there for visual reference. So if I change this here and tell it, this is engineering evaluation, any records moving forward are going to go ahead and be created with that verbiage, with that information. But now we're in engineering evaluation. This is where the condition script comes into play, right? The reason that it's in there is it's checking to see if I am the approver. If I am the approver, it allows me to approve the change request. Otherwise, if another user is looking at this, we don't want them to have the ability to push this forward. So again, that's a condition script in play right away. The other one is the one that I touched on previously is I'm the last approver. So if I go ahead and approve it, it's going to go ahead and be the final approval and just send it straight into stage 2. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to send this through. It's going to run the action script Once it knows that I've met all the criteria, which I have, I don't have anything very, I would say, very specific that needs to happen for my change requests. They're very straightforward. But when the action script runs, it moves my name from remaining approvers to approved by. Very, very handy when you have multiple approvers, because that way you're not guessing to see who is left, right? If it's John, Jim, and Jose, John and Jim have approved, then I know that obviously the person who's slacking is Jose, right? So it's easier to keep track. It's easier to kind of visually just see that right away. So action script is doing that. It's sending it from one to the other. The last thing here we're going to do is just go ahead and close out this change request. So we're going to do an approve final, and it's going to run once again through that action script, perform all the necessary functions. It locks up the change request, moves the last approver over to this approved by environment. And then because we wanted to generate a change order on approval, it went ahead and generated one, and then it linked it to our change request. So you'll see here that our related change order, which was previously empty, now has a link. If I go ahead and click this, it takes me to my change orders environment. You'll see here that this changed. If I show you the records here, we are in our change order. I have a lot more change orders that I've generated in here. But what's nice about this flow, again, is we used an action script to run through this, right? We used an action script to grab information from our change request and create a change order from it. That's valuable. For lack of a better word, that's so valuable. We have so many customers that run through issues where, either when you're working with ERP, when you're working with change orders, change requests, one of the biggest issues is data fill out, right? Data input. We're all human. We all do it. I'm pretty sure I fat fingered something 3 times during this demo already. And it happens, right? If we're moving super fast, sometimes we don't catch it. That causes issues down the line. With the action script, with the workflow within Fusion Manage, we don't have to worry about certain things. If there's certain information that was filled out in change request, it was obviously reviewed, it was obviously approved, then we shouldn't have to refill out that information in our change order. So what that action script does is it grabs certain fields. You'll see here that it grabbed title off our change request, and it applies it to the change order that we see, right? So because we can do that, because we don't have to worry about that, we can now move on next in the process. It could be you doing the change order as well. It could be a completely different team. They'll get a notification letting them know, hey, this new change order has been created. Go ahead and work on it. You'll see here, if I edit my change order here, there is no number generated yet. That should generate when I save this on edit here. What it does is it'll check to see, hey, do you have a number? If yes, leave it alone. If no, generate one. You can go ahead and fill out certain information. Again, team here is required. So we can go ahead and choose a team again. And now if I hit save, I'm hoping, yep. So we go through here. And because I added a team, it again adds the remaining approvers and the predefined approvers. And we can kind of continue on this path. Specifically for this KVA, we were just going to focus on change requests and change orders, kind of spawning them off of each other. But that same basic principle applies down the line, right? If there's other documents that need to be spawned, other records, other workspaces that need to be connected, they can all be connected in a similar manner. It doesn't have to be on approval or final approval, I would say. For change requests specifically, we said, hey, once it reaches this stage of the workflow, then we want to change order, right? But it could happen when it goes from CCB review to implementation. It could, when that happens, let's say we have an additional form that we have to fill out, an additional record that should be created. We can go ahead and spawn that record on that transition. We don't have to wait until the very end. And again, these workflows are different and can be completely different from one another. You'll see here that maybe there's additional steps, additional options after the fact. You'll see here that even after it's approved, we can start pushing things to ERP. We can run certain scripts to go ahead and do that. We can integrate different systems in here. But I believe that's, I guess I would say, enough to make you guys a little dangerous in experimenting with your workflows if you haven't already. Scripting, I would go more into detail of it, but it's really hard I would not even teach, but go through scripting. If any of you have scripted in the past, JavaScript or any other kind of script, if you're reading your scripting versus somebody else's, it's a completely different language, right? Yes, there's best practices here and there, but everybody formats differently. Everybody puts things in different location. It just becomes a little bit more tedious. If JavaScript or any those kind of best practices are something of interest, concerning Fusion Manage, we can go ahead and take a look at certain common ones. If that's something that you guys are interested in, just let us know. We definitely take that into account. We can go ahead and take a look at it. But just, review of what we touched on today. Permissions, we looked at the different sections. We looked at the different attributes. We looked at the different approvals, right? So you saw that because I was added as an approval, I was able to push things through the workflow, and it ensures that the right people are doing it. We saw automation, creation of the change order upon approval. We can do that with other workspaces. We can do that with other records. We can grab whatever information we need. That'll be part of the scripting portion, because as it's creating these records, you can tell it, hey, look on this field and grab this information, and it belongs in this field. You can link those. And then control. Again, we looked at certain criteria that need to be met before it moves forward. How many approvers can push it through, and what validation and needs to happen before certain actions happen, to make sure, again, that your data is good. You want to make sure that the data that you're outputting is valid and usable by the rest of your company. So, as you guys move forward, you can put more and more constrictions on it, add additional criteria, make sure that the information is valid. But that's all I had for you guys today. And we do this as a service as well. So if it's something that you've been thinking about implementing within your environment, like I said, all of these workspaces are interconnected. I didn't even jump into the fact that we can add items, like, so your part numbers, these can all be added into the change request environment. And as we approve a change request, or sorry, a change order, we can release our part numbers. So again, that's part of action scripts. That's part of validation scripts. We can go ahead and do these actions within Fusion Manage. So it's a very big tool. We have a couple more KVAs on this series. So if there's anything specific that you guys wanted to see or dive more into, let us know. We'll be happy to kind of jump into it. But with that, let me see if there's any questions from you guys or anything that you would like me to kind of go over again. All right. Looks like no questions coming through, but if you do have questions, or you remember right after we get off, I know as soon as we hang up this call, I can be like, oh, I had a question. Give us a call. Send us an email at support@ketiv.com. More than likely, it'll end up in my inbox as well. So, odds are we can jump on a call and kind of discuss further. But thank you guys for jumping on today. Recording is going to be available in 24 hours. So I know there's a couple people that asked me for the recording. So I'll go ahead and send that out as soon as that happens. And thank you guys again for joining. I'll talk to you guys soon.